If you're listening to this podcast on YouTube, for a better experience, switch to the video version. The link is in the episode description. Hello and welcome. I'm Fernando, a GP in the UK. In today's episode, we'll look at the NICE updates published in May 2026, focusing on what is relevant in primary care only. This month, we have only one technology appraisal that is relevant to primary care, which is semaglutide for reducing the risk of major adverse cardiovascular events in people with cardiovascular disease and overweight or obesity. Right, let's jump into it. This particular technology appraisal recommends semaglutide for reducing the risk of major adverse cardiovascular events in adults with established cardiovascular disease and overweight or obesity. The difference is that this is not a general obesity recommendation. This is about secondary prevention in people who already have established cardiovascular disease and a BMI of at least 27. NICE defines established cardiovascular disease here, in this guidance, as having at least one of the following: a previous MI, previous ischemic or hemorrhagic stroke, or symptomatic peripheral arterial disease. For peripheral arterial disease, NICE specifies intermittent claudication with an ankle brachial index below 0.85 at rest, or previous peripheral arterial revascularization or amputation because of atherosclerotic disease. The recommendation is that semaglutide, up to a maintenance dose of 2.4 milligrams once weekly, can be used alongside standard routine management in order to reduce the risk of a major adverse cardiovascular event. In this guidance, a major adverse cardiovascular event means cardiovascular death, non-fatal MI, or non-fatal stroke. The guidance does not specify which setting semaglutide should be used in, and it does not say that it needs to be provided in primary care. But it does say that, once recommended by NICE, it must be funded in the NHS in England within 90 days of final publication. NHS England has said semaglutide is expected to become available to eligible people over the next few years, but there isn't yet a single national primary care prescribing pathway. Some local formularies still restrict semaglutide in primary care, although many of these restrictions relate to weight management services rather than this new cardiovascular indication, so we will have to watch the space. In the rationale, NICE states that lifestyle changes and standard medicines are used to reduce cardiovascular risk. These measures include diet, exercise, reducing alcohol, stopping smoking, and managing weight. Medicines may include antihypertensives, lipid-lowering drugs, antiplatelets, and anticoagulants. Semaglutide is positioned as another option alongside standard care for secondary prevention, given that trial evidence shows that it reduces the risk of a first major adverse cardiovascular event compared with placebo. We know that people from South Asian, Chinese, other Asian, Middle Eastern, Black African, or African Caribbean ethnic backgrounds may have a higher cardiovascular risk at lower BMI thresholds. However, NICE did not recommend semaglutide below a BMI of 27 because of licensing reasons, and because evidence in that lower BMI group is not available. In summary, for us in primary care, the main message is that semaglutide is a cardiovascular secondary prevention option for people with established cardiovascular disease and a BMI of at least 27. And semaglutide should be used alongside standard cardiovascular prevention, not instead of it. So we should still give lifestyle advice and optimize blood pressure and lipids, and prescribe antiplatelet or anticoagulant treatment where appropriate. So that is it, a review of the NICE updates relevant to primary care. We have come to the end of this episode. Remember that this is not medical advice, but only my summary and my interpretation of the guidelines. You must always use your clinical judgment. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.